Hey, Martin, what do you say to that? We're going to take away your fun.
Well, no, they're not going to take away my fun. I've been treated more honestly by bookies and gamblers and at dice tables and horse parlors than I ever have been on Wall Street. I've been cheated, lied to, stolen from, and
all right, well, I guess that's your
more honesty in Las Vegas than there is on Wall Street.
Well, that's one opinion. I'm not sure if it's entirely accurate, but what about the example set for young people and kids that can get into the potential kind of trouble that those kids at Northwestern are facing?
Oh, you're going to have that anytime. Anytime there's money to be made for shaving points. But like I said, if you're going to condemn all gambling just because of a couple of people, they are not the gamblers. They are not the people who run the casinos. The casino owners are very, very, very honest men.
Well,
they wouldn't have anybody complain that they were cheated at their tables or...
Okay, Martin,
right.
You know, that's one viewpoint. I guess we've all seen the movies, though, where the owners aren't portrayed as such honest men, and we're not here to judge them this evening. But thanks for the call, Martin.
All right.
But again, we get, you know, he does make, I think, one interesting point. Well, of course, you're going to have that where there's money involved. Cindy, I've heard the comment made, the mayor made it in the setup piece. You know, it's these point spreads. As long as that's there, there is the opportunity for somebody to work around that and try to increase the money that's made. It's just there as a lure.
Exactly. And when you have someone that has a gambling problem and they have money out to individuals and they don't have a way to pay it off, there's going to be a panic and they're going to react in that panic. I think it's important that we look at what the problem is and not label it as something that it's not. But if we're talking about criminalization here, that's not going to help the problem. We need to really identify what the problem is and then work on a solution based on the problem.
So saying, okay, now we have to stop all gambling is just going to drive it underground. So what you're talking about is some sort of prevention, but yet if it's spreading and seems to be, what's going to work that way?
If we have individuals that are getting into trouble with something like this, we can't just take a legal stance on it. We need to look at if there's a problem here with gambling, then there's got to be treatment available for it. And there are not treatment dollars out there. We're trying our best to educate. That's the focus of the council, is to educate treatment providers and make others aware of the fact that compulsive gambling is a psychiatric disorder requiring specialized treatment. It's not something that you put someone in jail for and expect when they come out that'll be the end of it.
Has this story, the one focusing with Northwestern, has this made a big impact down on the campus at Champaign-Urbana, or is it just not that interesting to those kids?
I think these types of stories are going to be more prevalent throughout the country. I wouldn't want to address any specific campus, but we're seeing the number of pathological gamblers grow in the adult population. The casinos themselves did a study that showed that between 1993 and 1996, they created at least 1.2 million new pathological gamblers here in the United States.
One of the things you've pointed out in some of the materials, what is the cost to that of you know, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, because you could say, well, it's their problem, so they're screwing up, big deal. I'm not concerned with that.
Yeah, well, see, now I didn't hear what all of what the previous caller said here. But the problem is that this are the ABCs of gambling. It creates addictions, bankruptcies, crime, and corruption. And the taxpayers have to pay for that.
In what way? John, in what way? I'm going to argue with you here.
Okay,
why do I have to pay for it if you have a gambling problem?
That's fine. Well, first of all, you've got increased crime. You've got costs to the criminal justice system. I mentioned the study in Minnesota, which indicated that crime was increasing 100% faster around the casino counties.
In other words, to just simplify it, if I can't make good on the gambling debts I owe, I might hold up the local mom and pop shop to get some cash?
Well,
is that what you're implying?
That's highly unlikely, but I may be running up credit card debt. We're certainly going to be paying for that in higher interest rates when those credit cards can't be paid off.
Okay.
When we have legal issues as far as people ending up in court with embezzlement charges, all kinds of white-collar crimes, there's going to be a price to that. And we're taking big money out of the economy here, and we're not putting anything back in.
But I disagree with this, and I think the studies will support what I have to say with regard to this, and that is that once people lose their money, they need money to feed this pathological gambling and problem gambling. And as the sociologists tell us, if it's drugs, you can't lose your whole, you can't shoot up your whole paycheck in one night. If it's alcohol, you can't drink away your whole paycheck in one night. But you can lose your whole paycheck in one night. And in testimony before the Illinois Task Force on Gambling just a year and a half ago, they had examples of people, retired people, who had lost all of their savings and were now on the public dole because they had lost everything that they had earned over their lifetimes. We just had a joint suicide in the Joliet area of a man and a woman who were basically retired, lost everything that they had, and then entered into a suicide pact and killed themselves. And this was not even printed in the local paper until it was on the front page of the Los Angeles Times. We're seeing suicides go up. There's a study out of California that says in the casino areas you can have up to 4 times the suicide rate. This is an impact on society. The crime rate definitely goes up in gambling jurisdictions. Nevada has traditionally the highest crime rate in the country. Las Vegas in 1996, front page story in their newspaper, said they had the highest crime rate. Now, when we bring that in, the taxpayers have to pay for it. So for the fun of a few and the addiction of 1 to 2% of society, the taxpayers are paying for this. And for every $1 that's coming in new tax revenues, the cost to society are at least $3 to $8 to $12, depending on which study you look at.
Certainly something to think about. Well, we're going to continue this in just a moment. Again, well, you just heard in that news update that about the Northwestern, the point shaving scandal, the players in court today, and the pleas of not guilty here. But of course, it's an interesting case that will stay in the headlines, but it opens up a lot bigger of a question. How much of a problem is gambling in the society, and what do we really do about it so that young people aren't roped into it? And it's not just even, there are a lot of folks, I guess, that you might not expect. Cindy Moriarty with the Illinois Council on Problem and Compulsive Gambling. During the break, you were telling me about the Susie Homemaker types that come to you for help. Why don't you fill the folks at home in?
It's not something that is unique or unusual. Finding that there's housewives that are gambling in the daytime and coming into my office for counseling and not sure how to tell the spouse that they've run up 6 or 7 credit cards and there's a $50,000 or $60,000 debt.
Yikes.
That they didn't expect it to go that way. It started out with some big wins, and big wins are different with each individual.
But why is this different, say, than maybe 20 years ago when a housewife wanted to maybe play something?
It wasn't in the backyard 20 years ago.
You had to go to Vegas, basically?
Exactly. And these are individuals that were not gambling prior to this, that had no experience with it. Someone said, let's go. They thought it was nothing more than
Fun,
an expensive
simple.
maybe, you know, a little extra money out, but something exciting.
There are a lot of times when you get involved in these kinds of things. You know, there might be the football pool at work. There might be the baby pool. Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Innocent-seeming things, or you're going to play the lottery. And in this state, I mean, it's legally sanctioned, and we're told that some of this money goes to education. So you think it's a good cause?
Yeah. Well, let me put a perspective on this. Sociologists compare lotteries to the marijuana of gambling, and they compare casinos and video gambling terminals to the crack cocaine of creating new pathological gamblers.
Exactly.
And the point here from a societal aspect is we're creating a whole new problem where none existed before. And the taxpayers are going to have to pay for that. Government does not promote tobacco. Government does not promote alcohol, but it promotes gambling. Governments have become economic predators on their own citizenry, and that's a social problem. And the taxpayers are going to wind up paying for that. Now, it usually comes in saying, well, we're going to give money to help those who do get hooked. It's just fun, it's just entertainment, will help education. But studies show that in those states that have brought in gambling to help education funding, the funding in real dollars has gone down. And in those states which still are non-gambling and don't have the lottery, the funding to education has actually gone up, which is what you would expect, because in the gambling states you're going to see more crime, more bankruptcies,
Other
18 to 42% up
is what you're saying.
around
And we
the
still
gambling.
have no treatment dollars for
Now,
anyone developing a problem.
I understood that when we started granting the licenses in Illinois for the various riverboats and such, I thought part of the deal was supposed to be that some of the monies would go into a fund to help those that we knew were going to end up compulsive, addicted, what have you. What happened there?
As far as the states go, the state has not, there's no money for treatment. There has never been a dollar allocated for treatment.
Okay.
There was some money allocated to help set up a helpline with the riverboats, that they came through with some money, and also some treatment dollars as far as educating treatment providers, but not actual money for treatment itself.
Well, let's hear what some of you at home have to say. Again, Frank from Batavia, is it? Frank, hi.
Yes, how are you?
Good, good. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I agree that gambling is addictive. I also agree that it is a social problem. In my personal experience, my father got involved in gambling, and he had a very successful business. He ended up by losing enough money and losing enough time attending to his business that he filed bankruptcy.
So you saw the cost up close and personal. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go to Frank. Thanks for the story, by the way. Let's go to Jerry from Elk Grove Village for a quick comment as well. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My comment is I've stopped gambling now for 1 month as of yesterday. Gone through bankruptcy. Basically, most of my associates have cut me loose, and I went to one GA meeting. It is a big problem. I think the comment I wanted to make, though, is that how government, like the man in the middle, I didn't catch his name, made the statement. I agree with him how the government support these casinos and allow these things to get built for tax revenues, and yet the problem has increased so significantly.
Jerry, can I ask you, Jerry, how did you start gambling in the first place? I mean, what was the attraction?
The win. I started with the horses. I used to actually enjoy handicapping the sport of the horses. And this last 3 months, what happened to me was I was going to the off-track parlor and literally not even handicapping and losing, just picking numbers. And I've gotten so far behind on my monies, it did cost me my marriage, depression. A number of things caused that, but I spoke with my ex-wife last night. Luckily, we were very cordial, but I admitted openly that it did cause a number of problems for me. I'll be 40 in May, and maybe it's the idea that I'm going to be 40. I'm scared. But I think GA is good. I did go to the one meeting, but I just give one. I know I'm running on here, but let me tell you one thing real quickly. What happened today, I'm walking home down Rowling Road, and I just borrowed money from my father and people to get caught up. Mm-hmm. And I actually had a thought run through my mind of taking that money and gambling it, and I actually got tense in the chest. I do know this. I do not ever want to have that feeling of losing again, and every day I'm away from it, I feel a lot better of that feeling of losing. Uh-huh. And what I will tell you the other thing, and I will stop. The other thing that has really hit me is that I'm lonely. I don't have anybody around anymore, anything around of all the people and that. So I've applied for a second job. I don't know if I'm going to get out of this trouble I'm in. I have so much debt that I'm in that it scares me very much, and I don't know how to get out of this problem.
I think that, well, first of all, I want to thank you for calling tonight. I think there's no better way you can advertise to the folks at home how serious this can be than to hear a story like yours. But Cindy, you know, I can imagine being at a point, I mean, you talked about the suicide rate attached to all of this. I can imagine being at this man's point and saying, it's not worth it anymore. I might as well really cash in. But what do you do to stop that? How do you bring them back and show them there is a way?
There are many individuals that have been able to turn their lives around. There's support out there. There's help out there. It is not worth losing a life over. The financial things can be replaced. Those things can be corrected very, very quickly. I know it sounds hopeless, but there is help available. We have a helpline you can call for help. The number is 1-800-522-4700. There are treatment providers available. There is support out there.
Okay, we'll give that number again at the end of the hour, and also another number I might point out to you that John has been kind enough to tell us about, the National Coalition Against Legalized Gambling. If you want to talk to those folks, it's at 1-800-664-2680. Well, we are out of time for this particular topic this hour, but I want to thank you both for joining us, and those of you who called, we do appreciate it. And Jerry, the best of luck to you. It sounds like it's going to be tough for a while, but I think if you've realized there is a problem and it's time to move on and you've done so for a month, that's great. A month is a start, okay? Well, we have a little bit of time left here to take your calls, and I know a couple of you still are on the phone lines wanting to talk about gambling, and our guests are kind enough to have stayed for the full hour this evening to help us out in terms of these issues. How about Tim from Joliet? Hi, Tim.
Hi. I was just calling. I work on one of the riverboats, and I do agree that it is a bad problem that the people have, gone bankrupt or had personal problems.
Plus side is it supplied you with a job.
Right, exactly. It's supplied thousands of people with jobs in which they can get out of their own personal problems, possibly. Myself, I wasn't making much. I started working with the riverboats, and it turned out to be a good career choice for me at this point. It's a bad problem, I would agree, but I can't say you have to or can blame it on the riverboats themselves. Granted, you know, the horse racing up north, Joliet, there had turned into a problem that they wanted to get the slot machines in there, and they were not allowed.
Right, a while back. Well, you know, that's interesting. Tim, rather, thanks for the call. That is the other side, the economic development side of this. Jobs given to those who had no way to support their family, what have you, but you're shaking your head, but I'm hearing a no.
No. I mean, we can address those issues. When in 1992 they tried to bring a major casino complex, $2 billion casino complex, to Chicago, Illinois. The economists looked at it and they basically said that for each job you'll be creating here in this complex, you'll probably be taking one or more jobs out of the regional economy. There are 35-mile feeder markets, and the casinos themselves call them feeder markets. Why do you think they call them feeder markets? Well, studies show that people are spending 10% less on food, 25% less on clothing, and 37% have dipped into their savings in order to gamble within these feeder markets. Well, that translates into lost jobs and other lost economic opportunities in these 35-mile radii around the casinos, and there's also the 100-mile feeder market. And in these same markets, we see other businesses 18 to 42% higher bankruptcy rates. Personal, professional, and business bankruptcy rates go up. That translates into lost jobs in the pre-existing economy. So there's a growing body of evidence that says, yes, you're creating lots of jobs here, but for every one job you're creating, you're probably losing one or more from the regional economy.
Okay, John from Woodridge, quickly. John, hi. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, quick comment.
My comment is that the gentleman in the middle there is 100% right about gambling. These casinos are strictly 100% win. There are a few people that may take a winning sometime. They'll advertise at $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. But they have maybe 50 people that lose that amount of money every week. Now, they made $100 and some million in 1 month on profit. And
It's certainly it's lucrative for the owners. We've definitely heard that, and they lobbied hard to get there.
Let me tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
I don't care who gambles, there is not one winner. The only time you have a winner is like you may win sometimes, and you'll lose, but most of the times you'll win one, you'll lose 10 times. And the worst thing to do is when you win. It's so easy to get $200, but when you get through in 2 or 3 years, you lose your home, your car, your family. And this other guy that said about these jobs, this gentleman is right. So more people lose their jobs. People get they're sick.
All right, John, you know what? I'm going to wrap it up with your thought there, because I guess you've summed it up for all of us this evening, and we appreciate it. We could have had you on here, and we did, so thank you for joining us. And again, the same goes to you, Cindy Moriarty and John Kindt, University of Illinois.